So I had no mentors, I had no father figure or anything. So we're in a southern town where it's very I don't I there's enough population, so we're at a population of about 300,000 people. But when it comes to stimulating ideas or anything unorthodox, it just there's not that many people there. Mm-hmm. So when you think about the orthodox ways to make money, you're thinking doctor, lawyer, businessman. And I don't even consider myself a businessman. Yeah. But you try to mimic how they're doing it. So you see everybody in suits, and like you said, you see somebody in a suit, you're like, they make money. That's the only way I knew. But like when I moved to Manhattan or I moved to San Diego, and I'm living like you weren't based off what you wore. Actually, living in San Diego, the bummier you looked,
the more
the more you made. But there's three things I looked at in Manhattan of how to judge if somebody has money. One was if they had the same time as me. So if I'm going to eat sushi every day at this spot or during times I'm drinking at noon or 1 or 2, and they're drinking too, I'm like, they have nobody to answer to.
Yeah.
They're their own boss. And Soho is a very trendy neighborhood. It's one of the,
yeah, I've been there a few times.
Yeah, it's a pretty trendy neighborhood.
It's pretty too.
And so if you living in that neighborhood, you know who has the money, and it's people that don't have it. You don't. How do I break it down? You don't judge how somebody has money by their money because you can't see that. You judge by their time.
Yeah.
Because the more time they have, the more money they have. And that's always been my motto is I'm not here to make money, I'm here to buy time.
Yeah, exactly.
But here in Virginia or Southwest Virginia, specifically, it's people walk one way. Unlike New York, it doesn't matter. There can be a guy he could be shirtless in New York. Granted, I've only seen homeless people shirtless. That's the first thing I think when they're shirtless. But no matter what they dress and stuff, you have these brilliant minds that aren't one-dimensional or one track.
They don't care what they're wearing.
Right. You can have a record producer and he wears ripped clothes. You can have this software developer that has just launched his. He's got round A, B, C funding already, and he dresses like a bum, and he's already made. He's raised $100 million.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that people don't see here. It doesn't matter what you wear. I'm in shorts, and I got this at Target for $15.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't really ball out on clothing, but it's not that. It's you see those people at the same time you're grabbing lunch or grabbing your afternoon drink or you're partying. Jonah Hill was my neighbor. So,
no way, dude.
Yeah.
I love Jonah Hill. He's freaking.
That guy was whacked out every time I saw him.
Really?
Yeah. So he dressed. I mean, everybody dressed like a bum, but he was just because he was a celebrity. I would always be like, and I'd always see him out. I'd be like, damn, he is bummy.
Try to make people not notice him.
Yeah, but he was always just like cracked out.
Wow.
The first time I met him was I lived in a walkout, so like I'm in an apartment building, but my door opens up to the street. So he's walking by with his dog. It's Halloween night. My boy that worked at Goldman, now he worked for New Startup too. But he came out, and the dudes, he had a pug. Look him up online, but I think it was a black pug. And his dog took a shit right there in my front area. And so I was like, dude, did you just see that? And he's like, that's Jonah Hill. I was like, no way. Opened the door, and Planned Parenthood was at the end. And so he was just turning the corner. I was like, hey, yo, Jonah. And he turns around, and he was like, what's up? And then he walks away.
That's crazy.
And then I pick up that shit after he walks away. But I was feeling like $1 million. I was like, yo, Jonah's like my neighbor.
Yeah.
When I say neighbor, we lived in the same block, but my place was like, it was very outdated, like most of New York is.
Yeah.
I had roaches. My plumbing was bad, but I lived in the best area in the city. It wasn't even that. At that time, I mean, my rent was almost $3,000. I had a box smaller than this room. It was half the size of this room. But you live, and that's just New York. That's New York. That's San Francisco. That's Hong Kong. Real estate's super expensive, and you're not in your place often.
Yeah. Well, I used to know this. Well, actually, I've known a few people that were
this Chinese guy.
Yeah, you too. Yeah. But a few people that were well off actually, and each and every one of them did not shine or, buy the most expensive things. Like they all wore, cheap clothes, cheap watches. I mean, whatever. And those people, like, all rose. Like, you know, they kept just putting their money back into their brand and their, you know, everything. But like, if you notice, like, most people that, you know, they get rich and then they just start buying all this luxurious
For
stuff.
sure.
Unless you know, you're able to keep the funds coming in, most of those people fall off, you know?
Right. I agree totally. I mean, that happened with me a
Maybe
lot.
not most.
So when you're especially like coming from where we're coming from, like, you know, I lived with the rescue mission. I lived right down the street from you too when we got a place.
Hey, I was homeless in Florida for 3 days.
So like the biggest thing is like when you never had it, you don't deal with it the same as somebody that always had it.
Yeah.
So like when I first had money, it's like I wanted that new watch. I wanted that new car. I want that exotic. I want
Yeah.
that new condo. I wanted all these things. And as you know gradually get into that, or you don't want those things that much anymore because they're monotonous. The things you thought were awesome, and they are. You have a high with it, and you feel good in it.
Yeah.
But your car just becomes transportation.
Yeah.
Your clothes just become something you wear. I probably wore this a couple days in a row. Actually, 3 days in a row. I just throw these shorts on. I go out, and I'm actually like, we launch in Richmond with Salties, so I just been throwing my clothes on. Granted, I take a shower and my boxers are new.
Yeah.
But I just get up and I gotta get
Don't
stuff
lie,
going.
they're old.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
No. They could be. They got rips in them. But the thing is, it's not that they buy cheap clothes to buy cheap clothes. It's more about what's comfortable, and that's the only thing you think of because you're not thinking of impress anybody. You don't have time to impress anybody. Like the way I work is like I'm busy. I'm trying to make this. You get so obsessed with your idea.
Yeah.
And you're just like you throw on clothes or clothes that you wore the day before, and you just get to work on that idea. It's not about saving money necessarily. Like, granted, like I only got it because it was on sale. It was normally like $40, $50. But it was $15. Your biggest thing is, I don't not dress cool. Like I wear sweats or a shirt and stuff. I don't do it because I'm trying to make a point of saving money or trying to make up any point. It's so simple. When I'm wearing that all day, I just want to throw those on.
Yeah.
And it just needs to be comfortable or, you know, make its purpose because I'm not focused on that. I'm working all day, every day, trying to make my dreams happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big content, well, I haven't been, you know, for the longest, but I started watching like, you know, people play live stream COD, Warzone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, once I started thinking about making a podcast, I would watch. I wasn't even thinking about making a podcast. I was watching Joe Rogan, and I've always been a fan of his, even since before, like when he was doing Fear Factor.
Oh, he's the GOAT on every level. It's so weird.
Dude, it's crazy, man.
Because you know how much respect he gained. So before I knew who Joe Rogan was, but I just knew him as an announcer. But everybody had so much respect for him, and then you see everything he's done behind the scenes, and you're like,
dude,
this guy's the fucking GOAT.
He's a fucking machine, dude. He is a machine, and it's crazy because I'll watch his podcast and